Daniel Andrews, a native of South Carolina, is the founder of a company that shows business people how to identify, find, meet, and nurture professional relationships with key referral partners. Fundamentally, he shows business people how to stop networking and start building networks. This is his fourth career. He's been successfully self-employed for 36 years, 50 if you take into account the lemonade stand he ran in the first grade. Let's see what makes Daniel so buzzworthy. Daniel, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. It's good to be here.
Yes, it is. Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh, you're South Carolina. You're just a couple of states down from me. I am a New Virginian, just outside of Richmond.
Yeah, I met someone else from Providence Forge the other day since you and I talked, as a matter of fact.
No way. Okay, what's their name? I might know.
To put those two together in the moment, I'd have to go back and look at my notes. But somebody popped up on my LinkedIn, and I'm pretty sure I'm scheduled to meet with them. But I'm like,
oh, that's hilarious.
Providence Forge twice in 1 month. How strange is that?
That is strange. There's only 5,800 of us in the area, and it's not even technically a city. Apparently, it's yeah, it's so funny. All of our streets are county streets, and the sheriff comes around. That's kind of funny. But so you own a company that helps people solve the bad networking issue in their business. Do I get that right?
Sure. Yep. Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. And yeah.
The unprofitable networking practices that people seem to continually go down. And so
Correct.
What spurred you to start this business specifically? You said you had a few careers, but this one right here, what was the catalyst?
Sure. Briefly, one of the effects of the mental makeup of my brain, for better or for worse, is that I see connections and patterns, right? That's the same. That's a symptom or effect of some of the way my brain is wired. There's definitely some drawbacks. So I don't want to pretend any level of genius, just the way my brain sorts the information around it. Meaning I've always known that clearly the real estate agents and the mortgage lenders of the world, do what they call networking. It's a little or no effect, but they do it anyway because it's obvious. But I've always known that the billboard advertising salesperson and the radio advertising salesperson should be having lunch together on a regular basis, right? The moving company and the divorce attorney should be consistently sharing referrals, right? The resume writing coach and the salary negotiation coach should be connecting over shared prospects and shared customers, right? I've always been able to see that, and I never could come up with a model that supported other people's efforts to find and develop a relationship with the right people that wasn't based on a finder's fee model. And for a lot of reasons, which I can document, by the way, finder's fees are a bad idea. I don't care who you are, what industry you're in. They're categorically a bad idea. They almost never work, and you should almost never use them because they actually do damage to your business.
Can we pause there and talk about, actually, we're going to pause the interview. I need you to turn down your volume because there's a feedback loop coming on.
Okay.
Just bring your speaker volume.
That's fine. I was also wondering if I'd managed to remember to grab my headsets and bring them in. Normally I'm at home. I've got a decent setup, and I'm about to head to Maryland to support my wife. I think we talked the other day, things aren't going well. Is this good?
Let me see.
Testing, talking. I'm getting excited again.
When I'm talking. Yeah, we're good. That's better. Okay. All right. Renika, we're going to start again. All right. I'm not going to start again. We're going to pop back in here. And let's see. We're going to talk about, okay. Let me pause you there and ask, why are referral partner or finder's fees a bad idea?
Wow. Okay. See, that's an hour-long podcast in and of itself. So if anybody wants to
give me the 2-minute synopsis of why people shouldn't be giving finder's fees.
I want to let people know this is not an opinion. This is a philosophy. This is a position based on facts. Meaning, I used to think they should work too. But the simple matter, the 2-minute version, and if anybody's interested in a link, I have given the hour-long version on multiple podcasts, is you can see they don't work. Now, not working is different than being bad for your business. But if finder's fees worked on a consistent basis, we'd all be rich from too much business referred to us, right? Literally, that would be the case. So you can look at the spectrum and see it doesn't work. But the reason why it doesn't work is it introduces an element of self-interest, right? Right. Mm-hmm. Does the dad introduce his daughter to the young man up the street because he thinks they're a good match, or because he's trying to get his daughter out of his house? Right. 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 And if you think about the charitable things you've done for other people, the moment, and I don't mean giving to charity, although that's a thing too.
Sure.
We should. Right. But if you think about the moments where you've paused to assist somebody, change a tire on the side of the road, an introduction that means something to them. If they then said to you, here's some cash for your time, you'd be like, that actually is distasteful. And if you survey people, which I've done, I can document it if anybody cares to see it, and ask them, if you give someone else a good introduction, how do you want to be supported? And I gave, I think, 5 choices. Cash, gift card, same thing. Short text or email. Short text or phone call, email or letter. I want to be supported equally with quality introductions in return. The two together, gift card and cash, which are really the same thing, but I asked 2 different ways as kind of a, to make sure I'm encompassing both sides of it. The two together, 6.2% of respondents. 6.2. 42% of respondents, 7 times as many, say a short text or phone call. They literally just want to be acknowledged. Another 42%, 7 times as many, say, I want to be supported in return. When you put money on the table, you're saying to the other person, I don't trust you to send the right referrals and prospects my way because it's a good win for them and for me. You're doing it for the cash involved. And it's actually detrimental to your relationships with those people that could refer you. It's an insult to the person that could refer you.
Interesting. I don't disagree with it. The question then becomes, when is it an actual good idea? Because you said there's a very finite amount of people who say it's a good
idea. Because of the rarity of when it's a good idea is so finite, it's not a good audience for you people. In certain industries, in certain circumstances, under a certain set of conditions, it might be a good idea. But typically, it's damaging to the relationship. Primarily, they're mostly acceptable if y'all are in the same industry and one of you could have or would have handled the business, but you needed to subcontract it out.
Gotcha.
Right. If I'm a real estate agent in Richmond, right, and I've sold your house because you're moving to Columbia, South Carolina, and I call up my buddy in Columbia and go, I need you to take care of my friend here. Right. That makes sense.
Right. Symbiotic relationship.
Right. That a fraction of that should come back to me. But outside of that, it's a rarity. It's rare.
Gotcha. All right. So continuing on. All right. So we now know that we can't utilize finder's fees. It's a bad idea to utilize finder's fees as a catalyst into creating referral partners. What is the answer?
Mutuality, meaning what does support feel like to them? I don't like the phrase reciprocity. Right? Adam Grant has written several good books, one of them called Give and Take. He says in the first chapter, something that I knew to be true in my heart. And that was this, right? I'm really glad to see the documentation for what I know to be true in my heart, right? Because that means it wasn't an opinion, it was a fact. I just couldn't articulate it. And he says that if you look at people's styles in business, you can quickly identify them, or their peers can identify them as givers, net takers, givers, takers, or matchers, people that shoot to keep it even. You can also look at a lifetime's worth of success. At the highest levels of success, do you think you find more givers, takers, or matchers there?
It's usually givers.
Givers. At the lowest levels of success, do you find more givers, takers, or matchers?
You almost always takers.
Nope, givers.
Givers as well. Oh, over givers.
They're giving to the wrong people or in the wrong fashion.
Gotcha.
Takers and matchers collapse in the middle, right? But this whole idea of I got a lead for you, I need one back, right? I'm not a fan of that, right? Because that's reciprocity and that's a grind. Meaning that is it chips away at the relationship, right? Mutuality is I'll do what I can for you in the moment, right? Don't know when people are going to watch this. Bad storms, hurricanes, our part of the world, right? My house is untouched. I lost power for 3 minutes. That's it. I got power, I got water, I got internet, I got a comfortable place to stay, right? Erica needs a place to stay. She's from Asheville, which got hammered. She's in Charleston. They're flooding. The hotel rates are going up. She doesn't want to stay there. She can't get any work done in a hotel room. And I'm going to let her stay in my house. And do you think I'm ever going to call Erica and be like, hey, you know, I need you to pay rent, right? Hey, when are you going to invite me for a week in Asheville, right? When you get that place rebuilt in 3 years, I expect a vacation for me and my wife. Not going to happen. Mutuality means she would if it were me. Right. Mutuality means I might overgive in the moment, but if there's ever a moment when she could overgive, she will. Right. We're in support of each other. So mutuality means, what does that other person need from you? A real estate agent can give a lot of leads to a mortgage lender. A mortgage lender can only give a few leads to a real estate agent, just the way the business flows. More people start with a real estate agent, get referred to a lender, than start with a lender, get referred to an agent. Right. What does mutuality mean in that case? The mortgage lender just needs to do a good job, is what that means.
Yeah, right? make the real estate make the real estate
agent look good. Yeah. They don't want to do your job. They don't have to ask you if you did your job, and they don't want to have to tell the client that you did your job. So if you'll do your job, keep the client updated and the realtor updated, that's all they need from you. And real estate agents will vouch for the fact that mutuality to them means, don't make me look bad, or better yet, make me look good. Yeah. Right? Keep this thing running on time. Let me focus on what I do. So it doesn't have to be a lead for lead, but mutuality means, and in a moment, I'm giving to you. Like this live stream, this podcast, I have no idea if anything's going to come back to it for me. Not that worried about it. I committed 30 minutes to you, 45 minutes to go through this. And if all the value flows in one direction to the people that listen to this, or because you've got one more person, I'm not going to call you later and be like, you better call one of your listeners and tell them to do business with me, because that was I'm not going to do it. I committed this in this moment. Now, if the phone rings off the hook and 83 people sign me up as clients, I don't need you calling me going, hey, Dan, you seemed a little lopsided there for a minute. Right. I'm doing what I can in the moment, regardless of how it pans out. That's mutuality. I agreed with you that we're going to commit X amount of time together. I'm going to do what I can, which means I'm open to being overserved as well. I've got Jason Basir, great example. He goes, Dan, I understand what you do. I don't need nothing. My Rolodex is so thick, I can't even get to all the business. What do you need from me? Right. And I'm like, okay. And I'm willing to receive that, because if it had gone the other way, I'd have been willing to give that. But if I'm stuck in a reciprocity, I'm like, oh, Jason, I can never accept anything from you until I give you something first. That's a bad idea. So the key is mutuality. And for some people that can give me a lot of referrals, refer that I can't give back, referring somebody that can give them a lot of referrals, right, might be the only thing they need, right? Because there's no limit to the gold stars, right? It's not that you get half a crown and I get half a crown, right? If I introduce people to you and you introduce them to a key referral partner, you, me, and the referral partner are all looking good.
Right. It comes down to giver's gain. Michael, Dr. Ivan Meisner, founder of BNI, his book Giver's Gain talks about that, and I akin it to, have you ever watch NASCAR racing, and you get these cars that are racing at 100 miles an hour plus, and you get the cars at the head of the track and the pole position are getting drafted by the people behind them, right? And that's this little vacuum that happens when you're cutting trail, if you will. You're cutting through the wind, and then there's this little void behind there. So you're doing all the work, which then creates an aid for the people right behind you. And so I look at it as a giver's gain is all about moving forward, always giving and never looking back, because the time that when you look back, you actually change the aerodynamics of your trajectory, which then messes up that whole vacuum and reduces the amount of drag that you can actually create for the people behind you, right?
Correct.
And so I think that when people are scorekeeping, which is what I think what I'm hearing you talk about, is like people who do the scorekeeping are the ones who get stuck at a certain space. The people who are ultra successful, regardless of whether it's money, friends, family, love, whatever you consider to be rich, it's those people you will see never make a scorecard. They never have a hashtag.
Correct. But there is a fundamental point, and somebody said, oh, I get it, Dan, right? Well, I'll give you three fast examples. There's a guy that leads an organization I'm a part of. Every time we get in a group, he's like, y'all go into breakouts and, make sure that you give first. And I'm like, Justin, mathematically, that can't be done, right? There's students in the room. Somebody's got to go first, right? And I put that in the chat box every time. I'm like, mathematically, that doesn't hold up. Because I'm until he realizes that he's saying it wrong, right? Someone else I was talking to, he said, I totally get it, Dan. I always try to give twice as much value I receive. I said, that sounds lovely. That's a terrible idea. He said, what? I said, let me tell you an example. I flew out to Salt Lake City for a cocktail party because that's the level of work I do. I should get on a plane and go to Salt Lake City for a cocktail party because it makes sense to me, right? And I'm hanging out with about 12 people. Mike is the one that put it together. I have his permission to tell the story. Justin is there. Justin is looking for work. Justin is a professional my age, your age, roughly, right? Mm-hmm. He's not begging for scraps or handout, but he's between positions, right? And I don't know much about him. I know Mike. He's saying to Mike in front of several of us, Mike, I really appreciate the help. You gave me an introduction. If there's anything I can do in return. Mike's like, no, it's not a problem, right? I love giving. And Justin's like, well, if you ever think of something I can do to help you out. This goes on for more than just one or two exchanges. Mm-hmm. And so I turned to Justin and I said, hey, call me later and I'll tell you a really nice gift that I know Mike would appreciate if you feel like you want to, thank him for what he's done for you. He goes, fine. He never did, but that doesn't really matter. The next morning I'm at breakfast with Mike alone. And I said, Mike, are you open for coaching? And he said, from you, always. I said, great. Thank you for permission to speak. I said, Justin was trying to tell you it was uncomfortable. It was uneven, and that made him uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. When you keep insisting, oh, it's no problem. I don't keep score. I love helping people. You're coming right up on the edge of being condescending. I said, you got some options here. One is to leave it like it is, but it's going to damage your relationship. I said, one is to think of something fairly big that he could help you with. Maybe not inviting him over to mow your lawn next week because I don't even think you'll live in the same town, right? But think of something that you need support or help with. Could be an introduction, could be something, I don't know. Secondly, another third option, because one is to do nothing. One is to come up with something big. He can balance the scales mentally. I said, third is to come up with something small, but tell him it's a big thing. Mm-hmm. Let him believe that you're even. Mm-hmm. I said, but fourth is this. Find someone else that needs something, particularly an introduction or some resource that doesn't cost money to provide. And tell Justin that it would mean a lot to you if he would support your friend, Billy Bob, that needs an introduction. Mm-hmm. And then right. I said, it fits your need to now do good you're doing good for Justin because you're letting him feel like he's making a contribution. You're doing good for this other person. Mm-hmm. Right. And he said, it's tough for me because I just get so much joy from giving. And I said, Mike, that's the point. Justin does too. Mm-hmm. Why would you deny him the opportunity to give when mm-hmm. you know it makes you feel so good? So there's absolutely, I've never read Ivan Meissner's book. I understand the principle givers gain. So I don't know if he misses the point on this, but you can absolutely give wrong. Now, please misunderstand. I'm not so a mercenary, right? That I don't think we should tithe to the church or synagogue. We absolutely should. That we shouldn't, right, show up at the homeless shelter on Thanksgiving. We absolutely should. That we shouldn't find people to mentor, to support. But if you're actively spending time in low-value conversations, giving away to people that can't give back, and I don't mean give back, you'll see where I'm headed with this in a minute. You're actively choosing not to help as many people as you could help. If somebody buys your time, if they buy your thing or consult or pay you as a consultant, do they come out ahead?
Always.
If you don't feel that way, you either need to do something different or do what you're doing, but do it differently, right?
Or listen better.
Low value conversations where you're not actively being introduced, you're not laying the groundwork for getting introductions to people that you can serve. You're actively saying, you're actively choosing to not serve as many people. You're actively choosing to leave the world worse off because fewer people got in touch with you because you didn't spend your time with the people whose message is worth amplifying that you can amplify and who are willing to amplify your message because your message is worth amplifying. So you've got to be careful about giving in the wrong time, in the wrong way, in the wrong space because you're actually diluting your ability to be effective on the planet.
I can see where you're coming from there. I think that what I'm hearing is that, as receivers, it's very important that we find. When I receive, let me put it this way: when I receive something from somebody that they didn't have to give to me, Because there's times where it's like, well, that was expected, right? And you still say thank you and stuff like that. But when I find somebody who's gone out of their way to give me something that they didn't have to give me, whether it be a referral, whether it be a piece of advice or taking extra time with me, whatever it is, I feel a duty to go back and show my appreciation. And to your point, that appreciation comes in so many different currencies. And you do have to find the right currency for each of the givers that you gained from. And so I definitely think there, as a giver now, and I have been touted as somebody who gives without taking score, right?
Right.
And when I say not taking score, is in that I don't keep track of who I've given to, right? If somebody says, "Hey, thanks so much for that," I probably could be better at saying and dismissing how much I say, like, "Oh, no problem, it was nothing." I probably need to be a more gracious receiver of the appreciation. But so that's something that we can definitely take away from this conversation is like, hey, be more gracious. I served in the Air Force for 10 years, right? And people are like, thank you for your service. It is so uncomfortable because I'm like, I have no idea what to say. Like, you're welcome. Like, it's like, but a friend of mine is like, you know what I say now? I say, you made it worth it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it feels so much better than anything
right.
else I could think of. So it's
I
like,
did it
yes,
for people like you, right?
right.
You know, one of the proudest moments of my life, right, or periods of my life, right? There's a dozen ways, right? Just as if somebody says, "I'm sorry for being late," you don't say that's okay because it's not okay. You say, "I accept your apology," right? When somebody says, "Thank you," you don't go, "It was nothing," which is dismissive of your effort and dismissive of what they just said. You're one of my close friends because you always take the time to let me know how much you appreciate the things that I do for you. And that means a lot to me. So you can appreciate the appreciation without it starting to sound like Chip and Dale, right? You first, no, you first, no, you first, right? You can authentically say, one of the reasons I enjoy serving you is because you recognize what the relationship between us is. So I thank you for saying thank you. If that doesn't sound too corny, right? That's one way you can do that, right? But you can acknowledge and show appreciation for the fact that they took the time to do that, because we tend subconsciously or consciously to pull away from the people that don't thank us often enough, right? Now, and I think one of the challenges with because I run some networking communities that go by the name Network in Action, right, which is a franchise. And what I've seen as a fundamental difference is, because I think Ivan Meissner's on the right track, right? But the way that's delivered in a weekly leads group setting tends to diminish the relationality, right? In two ways. One, if you're not on the roster, then you don't exist in a lot of places. That's not true with every chapter, but I see it a lot here in my town. But the other is, and it's not just them, it's all the leads groups. But the other is that there's quotas. Right. And I'm very leery of a quota, because then people are writing names on scraps of paper to meet the quota. Right. And when you've built trust and cred with other people, the right people, you're in a position to consistently get referrals. This is what absolutely kills me. I'm a good networker. No, you're not. Like, I thought I was. I said, all right, let's find out. Of all the adults we'll leave children out of the equation because they're probably not part of the buying process. Of all the adults what percentage of them could refer business to you? And it depends on their market. If they're real estate or home insurance, they'll say 80, 90, 100%. If they're a B2B offer of some description, website design or direct mail or marketing tchotchkes, right, they'll say 50%. If they're a professional mermaid, right, or they sell glow-in-the-dark rope like some of my clients, but real rolls, by the way, then they'll say 10%. Doesn't matter the answer to the first question, because the real answer is in the second question. What percentage of those people do refer business to you? And they go, well, dang. I said, okay, great. You're good at making friends, which is fine if you need friends, right? In the phrase, people do business with folks they know, like, and trust, what's the most important word in that sentence?
Trust.
Nope, business is the most important word in that sentence. Of the three characteristics, trust is. And you were set up to get the answer wrong, by the way. Nobody gets it right because it's the last, so your brain goes there. We've been talking about it for 10 minutes, so your brain goes there. And it is accurately the most important of the three. But the most important word in that sentence is business. Otherwise, you're just finding out who you want to invite to the tailgate, which is fine if you need more people at the tailgate. but is totally insufficient for determining who you trust to refer people to you. Because not every referral is good. If they don't know my model, then they're going to send people my way that aren't a fit, and who I trust to refer to. It is as important that I discover their referability as it is that I uncover my referability. I'm trying to figure out who belongs in my professional world. And the reverse is true. There's people at your tailgate that you'll never hire. There's people that you're hired that you'll never invite to your tailgate. Guy called me one day. He goes, "Hey, Dan, that lawyer you referred me to, for that case where I'd been sued." He goes, "He's a bit of a jerk." He didn't use that word, but that's one we use for this conversation. And I said, "Awesome." I said, "Is that an update or a complaint?" He goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, if it's an update, he said, if it's a complaint, I'll get in touch with his boss." I said, "I don't know if they have customer service classes for lawyers. Maybe they do. I mean, best cases or worst cases, a managing partner will chew him out, tell him to be nicer. I don't know." I said, "But did he win?" And Chris thought for a minute. He goes, "Yeah, that's just an update. Don't worry about it." I'm like, there we go. Right. Did you want a new best friend? Or did you want a lawyer that was going to win the case? Because you asked me for a lawyer that was going to win, so that's where I went.